In the bustling village of Isoko, nestled along the coast of Nigeria, there lived a man named Emeka. Known throughout the village as a treasure hunter, Emeka's luck had seemingly abandoned him long ago. His weathered face told the story of countless days spent under the relentless sun, scouring the shores and depths of the nearby bay in search of elusive riches. As Emeka trudged along the sandy shoreline one scorching afternoon, his tattered clothes ruffled by the salty breeze, he felt the weight of his failures bearing down upon him. His pockets were empty and his spirits were low. Kicking at the sand in frustration, he muttered to himself, why me? Why can't I find just one small treasure to change my life?" Suddenly, amidst the crashing waves and cries of seabirds, a haunting melody drifted to Emeka's ears. Entranced, he followed the ethereal sound until he reached a secluded cove, hidden from the prying eyes of the town. There, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, he beheld a sight that took his breath away. A mermaid, her skin shimmering like molten gold, reclined upon a rocky outcrop. Her long hair cascaded in waves of liquid sunlight, and her eyes were the color of the deepest parts of the sea. As Emeka approached, she turned to him with a smile that held both mystery and mischief. "Welcome, treasure hunter," she purred, her voice like honeyed silk. "I am Adana, guardian of these waters. What brings you to my domain?" Emeka could hardly believe his eyes. Mermaids were creatures of myth and legend, whispered about in seafaring tales. But here before him stood one in all her radiant glory. He rubbed his eyes, convinced he must be dreaming. I am Emeka," he stammered, his voice tinged with awe. "I seek fortune and riches beyond measure, but alas, they always seem to elude me." Adana's laughter danced upon the breeze, sending shivers down Emeka's spine. "Fear not, dear Emeka," she said, her eyes twinkling with an otherworldly light, "for I may have just the solution to your woes. I possess a gift unlike any other, a touch that turns everything to gold." Emeka's heart raced with excitement at the thought of such power. Gold was the key to his dreams, the answer to all his prayers. With Adana's help, he could finally claim the wealth and prosperity he so desperately desired. "Tell me," he asked, his voice quivering with anticipation, "how may I earn such a miraculous gift?" Adana's smile widened, revealing rows of glistening teeth. "All I ask is a simple favor," she replied, her voice dripping with honeyed temptation. "Bring me precious treasures from the world above, and in return, I shall bestow upon you the Midas touch." Without hesitation, Emeka agreed to Adana's terms, his mind ablaze with visions of endless riches and boundless wealth. Little did he know that the golden mermaid's offer came with a price far greater than he could ever imagine. As Emeka made his way back to the village, his head spinning with the encounter, he couldn't help but wonder if it had all been a dream. But the lingering scent of salt and something otherworldly on his clothes told him it had been real. The next morning, Emeka woke with renewed purpose. He set out early, determined to find something worthy to present to Adana. As he walked through the village, he overheard two women gossiping by the well. "Did you hear about Old Man Chidi?" one woman said. "They say he has a collection of ancient artifacts hidden away in his hut." Emeka's ears perked up at this information. Old Man Chidi was known to be a bit of a hermit, living on the outskirts of the village. If anyone had treasures worth presenting to Adana, it would be him. With determination in his steps, Emeka made his way to Chidi's hut. He found the old man sitting outside, whittling a piece of wood. "Good morning, Baba Chidi," Emeka greeted respectfully. "I hope this day finds you well." Chidi looked up, his rheumy eyes narrowing suspiciously. "What brings you here, young Emeka? Come to laugh at the old man?" Emeka shook his head vigorously. No, Baba. I've come because I heard you might have some interesting items. Artifacts, perhaps." Chidi's expression softened slightly. "Ah, so you're interested in the old ways, are you? Come inside, let me show you something." Inside the dimly lit hut, Chidi rummaged through an old trunk, finally pulling out a small, intricately carved wooden box. "This," he said, his voice hushed with reverence, "is said to have belonged to the great Oba of Benin. It's been in my family for generations." Emeka's eyes widened at the sight of the beautiful box. This would surely impress Adana. "Baba Chidi," he said, trying to keep the excitement from his voice, "would you consider parting with this treasure?" The old man looked thoughtful. "It's not for sale, young Emeka. But perhaps we could make a trade. There's a rare herb that grows deep in the forest. If you could bring me some, I might be persuaded to part with the box." Emeka readily agreed, his heart pounding with anticipation. He spent the rest of the day trekking through the dense forest, searching for the herb Chidi had described. As the sun began to set, he finally found it growing near a babbling brook. Returning to the village, Emeka presented the herb to Chidi, who examined it with a critical eye before nodding in satisfaction. "You've done well, young man," he said, handing over the carved box. "Take good care of it." With the precious artifact in hand, Emeka rushed to the secluded cove where he had met Adana. As he approached the water's edge, he called out, "Adana, are you there?" For a moment, there was silence save for the lapping of waves against the shore. Then, in a shimmer of golden light, Adana emerged from the water, her beauty even more breathtaking than Emeka remembered. "Ah, my dear Emeka," she said, her voice like a caress. "You've returned, and with a gift, I see." Emeka held out the carved box, trying to hide the trembling of his hands. "This belonged to the great Oba of Benin," he explained. Is it worthy?" Adana took the box, examining it with an appraising eye. A slow smile spread across her face. "Oh yes, this will do nicely. You've done well, Emeka." She placed the box on a nearby rock and turned back to Emeka, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Are you ready to receive your reward?" Emeka nodded eagerly, his heart pounding in his chest. Adana reached out, her golden fingers brushing against Emeka's hand. A tingling sensation spread through his body, and for a moment, the world seemed to shimmer around him. "There," Adana said, her voice filled with satisfaction. "You now possess the Midas touch. Everything you touch will turn to gold. Use it wisely, dear Emeka." As if in a daze, Emeka reached out and touched a small pebble on the beach. To his amazement, it instantly transformed into solid gold. He let out a whoop of joy, his mind racing with the possibilities. "Thank you, Adana," he cried. "You've changed my life." The mermaid's laugh tinkled like bells. "Remember our bargain, Emeka. Bring me more treasures, and I shall continue to bless you." As Emeka made his way back to the village, his mind was awhirl with plans. He would be the richest man in all of Isoko. No, in all of Nigeria. No more would he have to scrape and scrounge for a living. But as he walked, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered a warning. What price would he truly have to pay for this gift? And what did Adana really want with the treasures he brought her? Pushing these thoughts aside, Emeka focused on the golden future that lay ahead of him. Little did he know that his journey had only just begun, and that the true cost of the Midas touch would be far greater than he could ever imagine. As the days turned into weeks, Emeka's life underwent a dramatic transformation. He began by turning small, inconspicuous objects into gold, pebbles, leaves, even grains of sand. At first, he was cautious, selling his golden creations in small amounts to avoid suspicion. But as his wealth grew, so did his ambition. Word spread quickly through Isoko of Emeka's sudden change in fortunes. Where once he had been pitied as a struggling treasure hunter, now he was the talk of the village. People whispered behind their hands as he passed, wondering at the source of his newfound riches. One afternoon, as Emeka was walking through the village market, he overheard two men talking. "Have you seen Emeka lately?" one said. "He's dripping in gold. Where do you think he got all that money?" The other man shrugged. "Who knows? Maybe he finally found that treasure he was always looking for. Or maybe..." He lowered his voice conspiratorially. "Maybe he made a deal with the river spirits." Emeka quickened his pace, his heart pounding. He couldn't let anyone discover his secret. If they knew about Adana and the Midas touch, they might try to take it from him. Or worse, they might try to harm Adana. As he hurried home, Emeka's mind raced with worry. He needed to be more careful, more discreet. But the allure of gold was strong, and he found it increasingly difficult to resist using his power. That night, as Emeka lay in his now lavish hut, surrounded by golden trinkets and luxurious fabrics, he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. He thought of Adana, waiting in her cove for more treasures. What did she want them for? And how long would she be satisfied with what he brought her? As he drifted off to sleep, Emeka's dreams were filled with visions of golden waves crashing against a shore of precious gems, and Adana's haunting laughter echoing in the distance. The next morning, Emeka woke up with a start. He had overslept, something he never used to do when he spent his days searching for treasure. As he rubbed the sleep from his eyes, he noticed something strange, a faint golden sheen on his skin. Alarmed, Emeka rushed to the small mirror he had recently purchased. His reflection showed that his normally dark skin now had an unmistakable golden tint. It was subtle, but definitely noticeable. "No, no, no," Emeka muttered, rubbing at his face as if he could wipe away the gold. But it remained, a shimmering reminder of the price he was paying for his gift. Determined to hide this new development, Emeka wrapped himself in loose, covering clothing before venturing out. He made his way to the market, intent on finding more treasures to bring to Adana. Perhaps, if he pleased her with more gifts, she would remove this golden tint from his skin. As he browsed the stalls, a familiar voice called out to him. "Emeka, is that you under all those clothes?" Emeka turned to see his childhood friend Obiora grinning at him. Obiora had always been the more successful of the two, running a prosperous fishing business. In the past, Emeka had envied his friend's easy success, but now he felt a twinge of guilt at his own ill-gotten gains. "Ah, Obiora," Emeka said, trying to sound casual. "Yes, it's me. Just feeling a bit under the weather today." Obiora's grin faded, replaced by a look of concern. "Are you all right, my friend? You've been acting strange lately. People are talking..." Emeka felt a flash of panic. Talking? About what? Obiora leaned in close, lowering his voice. About your sudden wealth, Emeka? Where did it come from? Some say you've been stealing. Others say you've made a deal with evil spirits. What's really going on? For a moment, Emeka was tempted to confide in his old friend. But the memory of Adana's warning held him back. It's nothing like that, Obiora, he said, forcing a laugh. I've just had a bit of luck, that's all. Found a few valuable items while treasure hunting. Obiora didn't look convinced, but he nodded slowly. If you say so, my friend. But remember, if you ever need help or someone to talk to, I'm here. As Obiora walked away, Emeka felt a pang of loneliness. His newfound wealth had set him apart from the villagers, and he realized that he had no one to share his secret with. Pushing these thoughts aside, Emeka continued his search for treasures. By the end of the day, he had acquired several interesting items. An old compass, a beautifully woven tapestry, and a small statue that the seller claimed was from ancient Egypt. As the sun began to set, Emeka made his way to the secluded cove. Adana was waiting for him, her golden form glowing in the fading light. "Ah, my dear Emeka," she purred as he approached. "What have you brought me today?" Emeka laid out his offerings, watching anxiously as Adana examined each one. To his relief, she seemed pleased, especially with the small statue. "You've done well," she said, her voice like honey. "These will make fine additions to my collection." Gathering his courage, Emeka spoke up. "Adana, I've noticed something strange. My skin, it's starting to turn golden. Is this part of the gift?" Adana's laugh sent shivers down Emeka's spine. "Oh, my dear Emeka, did you think such power came without a price? The more you use the Midas touch, the more it becomes a part of you." Emeka felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. But how do I stop it? I don't want to turn into a golden statue." Adana's eyes glittered with amusement. "There is a way to reverse it, of course, but that would mean giving up your power. Is that what you want, Emeka? To go back to being a poor, struggling treasure hunter?" The thought of losing his newfound wealth and status made Emeka's head spin. "No," he said quickly. "No, I don't want that, but isn't there another way?" Adana smiled, revealing her sharp teeth. "Bring me more treasures, Emeka. The rarer, the more valuable, the better. Perhaps then I'll consider helping you with your little problem." As Emeka left the cove, his mind was in turmoil. He had wanted wealth and success, but at what cost? The golden tint on his skin seemed to mock him, a constant reminder of the bargain he had made. But as he walked back to the village, the weight of the gold coins in his pocket comforted him. He had come too far to turn back now. He would find a way to control this power, to have it all without losing himself. Little did Emeka know that his troubles were only beginning, and that the true test of his character and his humanity lay just ahead. As the weeks passed, Emeka's obsession with finding treasures for Adana grew. He spent less and less time in the village, venturing further afield in search of rare and valuable items. His skin continued to take on a more pronounced golden hue, forcing him to cover up even more. One day, as Emeka was preparing for another treasure-hunting expedition, there was a knock at his door. He opened it to find Obiora standing there, a worried expression on his face. "Emeka, my friend," Obiora said, his voice laced with concern. "We need to talk. The whole village is worried about you. You've changed, and not just in your appearance. What's happening to you?" Emeka felt a surge of irritation, Why couldn't everyone just leave him alone? "I'm fine, Obeora," he snapped. "I'm just busy. Is that so hard to understand?" Obeora took a step back, surprised by Emeka's harsh tone. "Busy? Emeka, you barely speak to anyone anymore. You're always covered up, always rushing off somewhere. This isn't like you." For a moment, Emeka felt a pang of guilt. Obeora had always been a good friend, and here he was, pushing him away. But the thought of sharing his secret, of possibly losing his newfound power, was too much to bear. "I appreciate your concern, Obeora," Emeka said, softening his tone slightly. "But I assure you, everything is fine. I've just found a new purpose in life, that's all." Obeora shook his head, unconvinced. "A new purpose that makes you hide from your friends, that makes you look different?" He gestured at Emeka's covered arms. "What aren't you telling me, Emeka?" For a brief moment, Emeka considered confiding in his friend. The weight of his secret was becoming increasingly heavy to bear alone. But then he remembered Adana's warning, and the fear of losing everything he had gained closed his mouth. "I'm sorry, Obeora," Emeka said, stepping back into his hut. "I can't explain right now. Please, just trust that I know what I'm doing." Before Obeora could respond, Emeka closed the door, leaning against it with a heavy sigh. He could hear Obeora's footsteps slowly retreating, and with them went the last connection to his old life. Pushing aside the guilt and loneliness, Emeka focused on his next expedition. He had heard rumors of an ancient artifact hidden in a cave system not far from Esoko. If he could find it, surely Adana would be pleased enough to help him with his golden skin problem. As Emeka trekked through the dense forest, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig made him jump. Was it just paranoia, or was someone following him? After hours of searching, Emeka finally found the entrance to the cave system. It was well hidden behind a curtain of vines, and as he pushed them aside, he felt a thrill of excitement. What treasures might be waiting for him in the darkness? Lighting a torch, Emeka ventured into the cave. The air was cool and damp, and the walls were covered in strange, ancient markings. As he delved deeper, the passages became narrower, twisting and turning like a giant maze. Suddenly, Emeka's torch illuminated something that made his heart race. There, nestled in a small alcove, was a golden statuette. It was about the size of his hand, intricately carved in the shape of a mermaid. "Perfect," Emeka whispered, reaching out to grab the statuette. But as his fingers closed around it, he heard a rumbling sound. The cave began to shake, and Emeka realized with horror that he had triggered some kind of trap. Clutching the statuette to his chest, Emeka ran back the way he had come, dodging falling rocks and leaping over widening cracks in the ground. Just as he thought he wouldn't make it, he burst out of the cave entrance, gasping for air. As the dust settled, Emeka looked down at the statuette in his hands. It was even more beautiful in the sunlight, its golden surface catching the light and seeming to glow from within. Adana would surely be pleased with this offering. But as Emeka made his way back towards the village, he couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The cave-in had been too close for comfort. What if he had been trapped? Or worse, was any treasure worth risking his life? Lost in thought, Emeka didn't notice the figure following him at a distance, watching his every move with keen interest. When Emeka finally reached the secluded cove, night had fallen. The moon cast a silvery glow over the water, And as he approached the shore, Adana rose from the waves, her golden skin shimmering in the moonlight. "Ah, my dear Emeka," she purred, her eyes fixed on the statuette in his hands. "What a lovely surprise you've brought me." Emeka held out the golden mermaid statuette, trying to hide the trembling of his hands. "I found this in a cave," he explained. It was dangerous to get. I almost didn't make it out." Adana's eyes gleamed with an emotion Emeka couldn't quite place. Was it concern or something darker? "You've done well, my treasure hunter," she said, taking the statuette from him. "This is indeed a rare and valuable find." Gathering his courage, Emeka spoke up. "Adana, about my skin. It's getting worse. People are starting to notice. Isn't there anything you can do?" Adana's laughter rang out across the water, sending shivers down Emeka's spine. "Oh, Emeka," she said, her voice filled with amusement. "Don't you see? The gold is becoming a part of you. Soon, you'll be as beautiful and eternal as I am." Emeka felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. "But I don't want to be eternal," he protested. "I want to live a normal life, to be with my friends and family." Adana's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Emeka saw a flash of something dangerous in their depths. "A normal life? After all the power and wealth I've given you? Don't be foolish, Emeka. You're meant for greater things now." As Emeka opened his mouth to argue, a voice called out from the shadows. "Emeka, get away from her!" Spinning around, Emeka was shocked to see Obiora emerging from the trees, a look of determination on his face. "Obiora, what are you doing here?" Emeka asked, his voice filled with panic. "I followed you," Obiora admitted. "I knew something strange was going on, and I had to find out what. And now I see." He looked at Adana with a mixture of fear and anger. "You're being tricked, Emeka. This creature, she's using you." Adana's beautiful face contorted with rage. "How dare you interfere, mortal?" she hissed, her voice no longer melodious but harsh and grating. As Emeka stood frozen, torn between his friend and the source of his power, he realized he had a choice to make. A choice that would determine not just his future, but his very humanity. The air crackled with tension as Emeka looked back and forth between Obiora and Adana. His mind raced, weighing the allure of power and wealth against the warmth of friendship and the life he once knew. "Emeka, please," Obiora pleaded, taking a step closer. "This isn't you. Come back to the village, to your family and friends. We can help you." Adana's eyes flashed dangerously. "Don't listen to him, my dear Emeka," she cooed, her voice once again sweet as honey. "Think of all I've given you, all we could accomplish together. Would you really throw that away for a mundane life in that little village?" Emeka felt as if he were being torn in two. The golden sheen on his skin seemed to pulse, reminding him of the power flowing through his veins. But when he looked at Obiora, he saw genuine concern and friendship. Things that had become all too rare in his life lately. Taking a deep breath, Emeka made his decision. "I'm sorry, Adana," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "But Obiora's right. This isn't me. I don't want to lose myself, to become something I'm not." Adana's beautiful face contorted with fury. "You ungrateful fool," she shrieked, her form seeming to grow larger, more menacing. "After everything I've done for you, you choose to side with these pathetic mortals." The water around Adana began to churn and froth, and Emeka realized with horror that she was not going to let him go easily. He grabbed Obiora's arm, pulling him away from the shore. "Run!" he yelled, and the two friends took off into the forest. Behind them, they could hear Adana's enraged screams and the sound of waves crashing against the rocks with unnatural force. As they ran, Emeka felt a tingling sensation spreading through his body. Looking down, he saw the golden sheen on his skin beginning to fade. "Obiora," he gasped as they ran, "I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you earlier. I was a fool." Obiora, panting heavily, managed a small smile. What are friends for, if not to save each other from evil mermaids? As they reached the outskirts of the village, the sounds of Adana's fury faded into the distance. Emeka and Obiora collapsed on the ground, exhausted but alive. In the days that followed, Emeka slowly reintegrated into village life. The golden tint to his skin disappeared completely, along with his ability to turn things to gold. At first, he felt a pang of loss for the power he once wielded, but as he reconnected with his friends and family, he realized how much he had nearly thrown away in his pursuit of wealth. One evening, as Emeka and Obiora sat by a fire, sharing a meal with other villagers, Obiora turned to his friend with a serious expression. "Emeka," he said, "I need to ask you something. All that gold you accumulated, what happened to it?" Emeka sighed, looking into the flames. "It's gone," he admitted. "When Adana's power left me, everything I had turned to gold reverted back to its original form. The pebbles became pebbles again. The leaves turned back to leaves." There were gasps and murmurs from the other villagers, but Obiora just nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's for the best," he said. "Wealth gained through magic rarely brings true happiness." As the night wore on and stories were shared, Emeka felt a contentment he hadn't experienced in months. He may no longer be rich in gold, but he was rich in friendships, in community, in the simple joys of life he had nearly forgotten. However, as he gazed out towards the sea, a small part of him couldn't help but wonder if Adana was still out there, waiting. And if so, what other unsuspecting souls might fall prey to her golden temptations? Shaking off these thoughts, Emeka turned back to his friends, determined to make the most of his second chance at a normal life. He had learned a valuable lesson about the true nature of wealth and the importance of staying true to oneself. As the fire crackled and laughter filled the air, Emeka knew that he had found something far more precious than all the gold in the world. He had found his way home.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Kindly click the subscribe button, like, comment, and share this video. Watch out for more intriguing and eye-catching videos from your favorite YouTube channel.